are rage, brutal, without mercy. But you will be worse. Rip and tear until it is done.
Please help me!
These were the opening words of the previous chapter of the legendary godfather of the FPS genre, Doom. That game, simply called Doom and frequently referred to as Doom 2016, something we'll also do for the remainder of this article, was a major surprise. The initial reception to the slow gameplay videos was lukewarm. The concept of the glory kills seemed out of line for such a game, and the mixed reception of the multiplayer betas certainly didn't generate much hype. But as the release date was getting closer, the more convincing gameplay segments on YouTube channels started appearing, and once the full game was released to the digital and physical stores worldwide, it was a little revolution. Nobody has ever done such a smart combination of fast-paced old-school gore fest with the feel of weapons in modern first-person shooters and their advanced movements. It was no longer just a merry-go-round of enemies to run around. Nor was it a constant hide-and-seek trying to take out enemies one by one to avoid getting headshotted in an instant. It was a fast-paced game of chess where aggressiveness was rewarded, where every move had its specific use, and where a constant alteration of attack and defense netted the best results. It was unlike anything else on the market, and its incredible reception surprised id Software as well. Therefore, it is not particularly shocking that their recipe for a sequel would be a good old bigger, badder, bolder approach as opposed to another revolution. Indeed, the game begins treading familiar grounds in a new location, however. After defeating the spawns of hell on Mars, turns out the Earth was overrun by demons as well, pushing our fellow hero to stop the invasion once more, this time in more familiar environments. The first level introduces us to the shotgun, the assault rifle, and the chainsaw, along with some well-known enemies like the zombies and the imps. It serves as a little tutorial for the newcomers, and a fun little refresher for those familiar with the song and dance of Doom 2016. The gloriously powerful weapons, the fast movement system without resorting to sprint or aim down sights, the brutal glory kills that replenish the Doomslayer's health, or how the chainsaw can be used on smaller enemies to gain ammo. For the veterans, it all comes back in an instant, like hopping back on a bike years after the last time. For everyone else, it's a quick but healthy explanation of the basics. Not everything is the same, however. The graphics takes multiple steps forward, looking particularly crisp on the Xbox One X. The whole battle formula has been evolved immensely, and by the end of the third level, Doom Eternal absolutely expects you to understand what is going on. Glory kills no longer replenish armor as well. This has to be done via the brand new shoulder-mounted flamethrower, which blazes enemies for some long-lasting, if minor, damage. Even Doomslayer's ammo reserves take a big hit, perhaps the only element of his incredible arsenal that feels less lethal than it was in the previous game. The reason is simple. The developers want players to stop cheesing the same strategies, to stop relaxing in the comfort zone by using the same two weapons that worked so well, forcing them to master the whole arsenal's strength to overcome the many difficulties. This gameplay flow change cannot be stressed enough. It doesn't take long for you to start getting swarmed by dozens of demons in a single battle, with the player often having to juggle between 5 or more at the same time, dodging all their attacks with the newly added dashes, and alternating the weapons smartly to abuse their weak points. This time around, in fact, the enemies are not just giant health pools with maybe the head or the eyes as a single weak spot. Their whole design can be used against them, rendering them practically inoffensive long before their HP reaches 0. Take the Revenants for instance. Their shoulder-mounted rocket launchers that cause so much pain thanks to an abundant shooting of homing missiles? Shooting these weapons effectively disables the demon's ability to hit the Doomslayer from a distance, immediately making it less of a threat than before. The Kako demons flying above the battleground. Shooting fireballs at the player or biting them from close up. A well-thrown grenade into its giant mouth immediately drops its health pool to an amount low enough to get a glory kill out of him, assuming he's close enough to the ground to be able to pull it off. The brand new spider-like arachnotrons can also be very lethal and take a lot of bullets to take down, so why wait and stay exposed? Just shoot off its cannon and boom, the offensive potential is greatly diminished. This sort of puzzle combat is the core of Doom Eternal. Every single enemy has weak points, weapons they particularly fear, pushing the player towards finding the fastest route towards these weaknesses while dancing around all the other dangers. Understanding which demons pose the more immediate danger is key, so using the core strategies and not wasting ammo and time on brute forcing them is essential to staying alive. The demons themselves were upgraded for this game, taking visual cues from the design seen in 1994's Doom 2. The updates are not merely visual, however. They seem to have been upgraded specifically to render the most common tactics from Doom 2016 less feasible. The Pinky Demons are now practically impossible to damage from up front. The player has to wait for them to charge and then shoot their weak spot in the back. The Mancubus no longer lets the Slayer close for an easy double-barrel shotgun hit in the face. He will burn the ground next to him as soon as the Slayer takes one step too close. Every player of this brutal ballet has been upgraded, and the result is incredibly satisfying. Indeed, the campaign is just a joy to play. The encounters are constant, high-octane adrenaline rushes, combining the twitch reactions you'd use in the old-school shooters like Quake with the more tactical approach where every enemy requires specific solutions. And whereas Doom 2016 had a hard time keeping up the variety between similar corridors on Mars and fairly repetitive landscapes in Hell, Eternal brings the player on a journey of many visual identities. Lava-filled hellholes on Earth, battles inside half-destroyed skyscrapers, even multiple encounters beyond Earth. There's even a surprising amount of 3D platforming, as the new dash ability is put to good use between jumping pads, springs, and climbable surfaces. There's some Metroid Prime and Tomb Raider in Doom's formula now, and it works surprisingly well. While I'll avoid getting into the specifics, this is because the story of Doom Eternal takes a more meaty approach than its prequel did. You can still skip all the cutscenes, and they're never too long, but between the pages of the codex you find around, and the encounters, there's definitely a sense of something huge going on. The main reason is the implication of the Makers, a celestial alien race that were involved in many events in the history of Doom, and not just 2016 and Eternal. It's a story full of ancient prophecies, legendary warriors, and giant wars. One that connects itself masterfully to the classic games. Of course, those who are in for the shooty will appreciate the God of War approach. These gods and demons talk big words, but at the end of the day, they are but flesh and bone and blood. Lots of blood. Story in Doom Eternal takes a bigger role, but it's entirely optional and most importantly still very tongue-in-cheek. The legendary Doomslayer has no issues walking out of the room while a demigod talks to him. His answer to legendary warriors talking trash? Blood. Much of it. He does not speak with words, he gets his message across through ultra-violence. And the story takes some rather satisfying turns for longtime fans of the franchise, with some choices that will certainly be somewhat controversial, but also made with clear fan service in mind. The campaign is somewhat meatier than the previous installment too. Alternating between the second and third difficulty out of the 4 in my first playthrough, it took me 2 to 3 hours more than Doom 2016. And keep in mind I was already very familiar with that gameplay loop, as I've played a good chunk of that again just before Eternal came out. The levels are still full of secrets, hidden unlockables, and alternate routes. All of this rewards the player immensely with weapon upgrades, health boosts, runes, and even weapon mods. All of these features are more streamlined and far less grindy than they were in Doom 2016, making for a much more pleasant experience. Let's go back to the levels, shall we? While they can still be approached in a more linear way, there's still a lot of exploration to be done, and replayability is guaranteed by all kinds of additional challenges. Most levels, in fact, have various battle or collectible related achievements that unlock useful batteries for the Doomslayer. Much more on that later. Some of which are objectively quite hard to obtain on the first try. Even harder are the Slayer Gates, unlocked by a well-hidden purple key which truly tests a player's resolve. These teleport the player in a small arena where he gets thrown an insane amount of enemies at an incredible level of intensity, much higher than the rest of the level they are located in. These challenges are not afraid to throw multiple prior bosses against the Slayer at the same time, and their completion is not something a newcomer should aim for anytime soon. I'd at least suggest unlocking all powers, mods, and upgrading everything in your arsenal, then go back to the individual levels, a feature that is still very much available, but this time done via the Fortress of Doom. This area serves as a hub, and it contains an astonishing amount of Easter eggs, secrets, and callbacks to previous games. He's even got a man cave, full of toys, badass guitars, an old school PC capable of playing the classic Doom games in full. I kid not, both Ultimate Doom and Doom 2 are fully available inside the game. And even a glorious portrait with Daisy on it, the original game's protagonist's pet rabbit that was killed when Earth was first invaded. This hub is a brilliant piece of fan service, and it serves as a nice breather between two high-intensity levels. Before moving on to the multiplayer component of the title, I'd like to spend a paragraph on the impressive customization and accessibility options of Doom Eternal. A frequent criticism I've read prior to the game's launch was how bright and colorful and busy the game's default HUD is. This really isn't an issue though. Not only are there many color sets that can be used, including a brutal blood red, one that I used myself for most of my playtime. Also, every single element of the HUD can be removed, all the way down to the crosshair. Text sizes can be changed. There's all kinds of colorblind options. The level of motion blur is fully customizable. The menu background can be switched between various dynamic worlds based on in-game locations. The keys can be rebinded. The field of view slider can be ramped up all the way to 110. Few console games allow the level of customization id Software's new shooter allows, and hopefully this can be turned into an industry standard going forward. Along with the game having multiple difficulties, including the legendary permadeath mode Ultra Nightmare, and even an optional armor that activates after many deaths that allow less skilled players to overcome hard obstacles, the development team's main focus seems to have been allowing everybody to have fun, even though seemingly looking for a multiplayer experience. Doom Eternal loses a lot of game modes compared to Doom 2016. Some are coming down the line like a Dark Souls-esque invasion mode, but the entire arena multiplayer aspect of the previous game, the point-based arcade mode, and the snap map level editor are all gone. This is partially compensated by a bigger and more ambitious campaign, but id Software also developed a brand new multiplayer experience in-house. It's called Battle Mode, and it's a rather unusual, asymmetrical mode in which one player controls a fully equipped and upgraded Slayer, while two players choose between 6 available demons trying to work together to kill him. The Slayer's gameplay very much mimics what's found in the campaign, but the demons have all kinds of never-seen-before powers, including the possibility of spawning other smaller demons to disturb the Slayer and healing abilities. On paper, it's a very hectic mode full of exciting moments. But for now, the balance seems to be all over the place, with many cheese tactics and questionable design choices dominating higher level play. The game even has a free battle pass system, which encourages people to grind this multiplayer mode to unlock new skins and other cosmetic elements. An addition of questionable utility in such a game, frankly, where most people will log off after the end credits and not touch a multiplayer mode that clearly feels like an afterthought. At least the multiplayer has the good old Slayer gameplay, and underneath is the brilliant Mick Gordon soundtrack that combines blasting metal and industrial sounds to brilliant results, just like in the campaign. Those who pre-order the game can even access the excellent Doom 64 port made by Night Dive Studios, a game that can otherwise be bought separately for $5. This is the first time the N64 exclusive chapter was ever officially ported to any other system. And with all kinds of graphical customizations available, it's a very impressive port all around.